to like fill my head with too many things and just kind of keep purifying and chanting. Um,
Mhm.
but I guess if I have a question, it's with like the lineage, like lineages and things like that. Um, with like, so I go on YouTube, and it's, I watch videos of Prabhupada, um, Sridhar Maharaj, Govinda, some Govinda Maharaj, and another person named, I think it's their god brother named Puri Maharaj, and I think there's another uh, Bodhaya Maharaj. So really, like a lot of the things that they're all saying, it's really good to keep me motivated, and it's coming from, it's very similar, it's the offenses and how to practice sadhana. So I'm trying to figure out, what's really the difference in, say, Puri Maharaj's lineage and Sridhar Maharaj's lineage and Prabhupada. Think, it seems like they're all saying the same thing, and honestly, like they're probably at 10 levels above where I am, where I'm purifying. So they're just basically saying like keep chanting, like, so that's kind of my question.
Okay, that's a really, really nice question. Um, Welcome, Chintamani Dandavat. I mean, some things we can discuss confidentially. Not everything is to be. I mean, in certain points about certain persons, some of whom you've mentioned, those can be discussed confidentially. But still, we can have a broad and general discussion of the subject matter. Um, I mean, it's very important because it's something this, such consideration is something that will consolidate one's faith, you know. Otherwise, if one puts their head somewhere in a, in a kind of a haphazard, or in a, without very clear and firm conviction as to why, um, then they could leave. They won't have a firm foundation on which to develop their faith. So it's important. Actually, there was one devotee who came to take shelter of Gurudev once, and generally Gurudev, we saw he was very magnanimous with persons who approached him. But there was one case I saw, someone came and took shelter, and Gurudev was and asked for initiation, and Gurudev was quite and I can add also, it was an Indian, or more specifically in Nepali, and so I think for that reason Gurudev wanted to be sure, like, there's so many gurus here, we're in the land of gurus, so why are you choosing me? So Gurudev was quite particular with him, pressed him, why are you choosing me? Why in particular are you coming to this mod and asking me? There are so many missions and there are so many gurus. So I'm just gonna turn off this here. So it's an important thing to consider. So we can start from a wider angle of Krishna consciousness, and then come down to why we are here in Sri Chaitanya Saraswati Math. So, first of all, we accept the Vedas coming in India as giving the highest, most developed, most detailed, most systematic presentation of truth. That's like the most the widest way of looking at this. And then we understand the conclusion of the Vedas is Srimad Bhagavatam and the teachings of Lord Krishna as the Supreme Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. then furthermore, so and then you have, then so you have so many followers of the Vedic culture, right? Then you narrow it down. You have so many followers of Lord Krishna, devotees of Lord Krishna, and followers of Srimad Bhagavatam, right? And then you narrow it down again a little more, and then you have the followers of Lord Chaitanya, because for those who can read the scriptures in a more scrutinizing, as Gurudev would say, and refined way, they can understand that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he is Bhagavan himself coming in this age to rescue the souls of this world. He's spreading the kirtan movement, so on and so forth. So those with an even finer understanding, they will recognize that Krishna described in Srimad Bhagavatam, he is appearing in the age of Kali as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So now you've narrowed it down. Now you have a smaller section of persons, who are worshippers of Krishna and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Then you have so many followers of Mahaprabhu. There are so many different angles on the teachings of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and so many different ways in which his teachings are applied and followed and practiced. So that's there's a lot to choose from there. When there's that famous some kind of scholar, I can't remember exactly what he was, but some type of scholar, he made a particular analysis and he identified 13 different groups who were so-called following Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but were actually completely misrepresenting his teachings, were actually making a massacre of the movement of Mahaprabhu. So those are 13 who were not bona fide, who were bogus. And then of course there were other lineages which were authentic. So just to give some idea here, there are many different groups who are following Mahaprabhu. And then you have Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who came out in the modern age with a very clean and pure and clear representation of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Then amongst the followers of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, there are, he had many qualified disciples. And after Saraswati Thakur left, then many of them started their own missions. So this is where we can zoom in a little bit. So if we have accepted that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, and we don't have enough time. Let's just take it for granted that we've made a comparative analysis and we've agreed upon Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur being the bona fide representative of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Also, we didn't mention Srila Rupa Goswami. Mahaprabhu appointed Srila Rupa Goswami. Actually, I should have mentioned that. Mahaprabhu particularly appointed Rupa Goswami as his successor, and this is very clearly described in Chaitanya Charitamrita. So it is indisputable, that Mahaprabhu was the chosen favorite. Sorry, that Sri Rupa Goswami was the chosen favorite of Mahaprabhu. And, he was the one who Mahaprabhu particularly gave his special mercy to and indicated he wanted his line to move through him. So amongst many followers of Mahaprabhu, then we see the followers of Sri Rupa as those having the closest connection with Mahaprabhu. And you know, we can also add here that it's, you know, okay, there are lineages which are completely inauthentic, but there are a number of lineages which are authentic. It is, but there are degrees and there is a gradation. So you know, like where is the strongest current flowing? That is the question. You know, all of the persons that you mentioned, you know, it's not that they don't have a connection to the current. It's not that they don't have something to give. Of course they do. But there are degrees, you know, and there, you know, there's a gradation in the intensity of the current flowing through them. You know, that's more the question. You know, there's a point where you're just, you know, like if you look at and you should study this at some point, the Ramananda Sambad. Maybe you've come across that before. Literally Sambad means conversation. Ramananda Sambad means the conversation that took place between Mahaprabhu and Ramananda Rai, very close associate of Mahaprabhu. So, you know, if you look at that conversation, and I recommend you study that. It's chapter 8 of the Madhya Lila of Chaitanya Charitamrita. So if you look at the progress of that discussion, in the beginning, you know, and the way the conversation is framed is that Mahaprabhu is posing the questions and Ramananda is supplying the answers. Which is very special because normally Mahaprabhu is in the role of the instructor, but he chooses to put Ramananda in that role. So if you look at the progress of that discussion, it's very interesting. What you see in the beginning of the conversation is that Mahaprabhu is rejecting. Eho baya, this is external. No, Mahaprabhu's asking in the conversation. Mahaprabhu starts out by asking, what is the real goal of life? What is the highest goal of life, and what is the best means to attain that? And so Ramananda is giving different levels of answers. No, he gives a gradation of answers. And so he starts out with a very like basic answer, and he gradually progresses to deeper and more refined responses. And so in the beginning, Mahaprabhu is saying, this is external. He just outright rejects it. Ehobaya, this is external. And then at a certain point, Mahaprabhu says, this is okay. I accept this, but give me something more. I want something better and more than this. And then slowly, they're developing again. So in the same way, you know, when it comes to a comparison of truth, then, you know, at a certain level, you're just rejecting, like, this isn't it. This isn't helpful. Of course, from a very broad perspective, everything has its place. But when we come to discussion of a more refined understanding, then we'll say no to this. So in the same way, you know, there are certain lineages, certain conceptions which we'll just outright reject. But then it comes to a point where it's like, no, you're all okay, but some are better than others. You know, there are those who have a closer connection or a deeper conception. Okay, so the Mahaprabhu had, you know, many followers who were authentic, and in fact, one interesting point is that Mahaprabhu actually has his own direct lineage, because Mahaprabhu he didn't formally take disciples, but it is considered that he took one or two, and one of those is the one who's well known is Rakeshwar Pandit, and so Rakeshwar Pandit has his own lineage, and that's still continuing today in Puri. Unfortunately, as I understand, nowadays they've deviated quite a bit and become imitationist. But anyway, so it's an interesting point that, if you're following things in a physical way, you'll say, oh, Mahaprabhu's direct successor must be his own disciple. So I'm going to follow this lineage. But Mahaprabhu himself, indicated Rupa Goswami as his favorite, gave his special mercy to Rupa, presented Rupa in a grand assembly of Vaishnavas, including his closest associates, and announced him, presented him, had him examined by the most qualified Vaishnavas in order to demonstrate his quality, et cetera, et cetera. So through that, we can understand Mahaprabhu wanted his lineage to flow through Rupa Goswami. And so therefore, we're following in the line of Rupa Goswami. So then, fast forward a few centuries, you come to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And, without, as I said, we don't have the time to go into so much of a detailed discussion here, but let's just assume that we've made the comparison and we've agreed on Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur as being the most authentic representative of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the lineage of Srila Rupa Goswami. Why that is, we can discuss at another time, but let's just take that as like a base, make that a base of our discussion here. So then the question now is, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he's the most authentic follower. So then he had many followers. How do we decide amongst them? Let's make that the question, because that is the question, basically. How do we decide that amongst them, why are we following the line of Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj? What is unique, special, and different? Why are we here when we could go to any one of these other Vaishnavas that you mentioned? And really, there were many great disciples of Saraswati Thakur, Bhaktis, and you've mentioned a few, and there are many others who you probably haven't come across yet, and they may not be so, their lines may not be so active today. Their disciples may not be, but Bhakti Saranga Goswami Maharaj, Bhakti Dayita Madhav Maharaj, Bhakti Vichar Jajavar Maharaj, Bhakti Pramod Puri Maharaj is the one that you mentioned, one of the ones you mentioned, and many others. So why Sri Chaitanya Saraswati Mat? Why the line of Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj? Then we can try to look at the history, and try to see, what was the relationship of all of these disciples with Srila Saraswati Thakur, and this is also a discussion which we have to be a little careful in having, because as you also said, who are we? They're all hundreds, thousands of times more advanced than I am. So, for me to sit here like a little, toddler in diapers and point my finger and decide, who's better than who, it's ridiculous, So, it's a conversation, but at the same time, we won't ignore the conversation, because it's a choice that we do have to make. Where are we going to take shelter and why? So, we will have the conversation, but we will do it with caution and with the understanding that all of these Vaishnavas are very great. So we can say that Srila Saraswati Thakur, he actually did not, first of all, we can say, Srila Saraswati Thakur, he did not directly appoint any one person as his successor. He left some some kind of will, and he gave some instruction to make a governing body or something like that. But he didn't actually appoint one person. And our Gurudev, he mentioned, one reason for that is because Saraswati Thakur had, not just one or two, but he had so many qualified disciples, and that, if he were to point one out, it could cause some controversy within the group. And then the other thing our Gurudev mentioned is that, real spiritual quality is something that's self-evident. And so you don't need to necessarily like point it out and put a big signboard, but someone who's truly qualified, it will become self-evident. If there, as Gurudev said, if there's a bright shining light, everybody can recognize that. You don't need to put a label on it. So that was another reason why Saraswati Thakur did that. He felt it would become clear and self-evident, and it wasn't necessary to directly state. So then we can say that there was one particular incident it was 24 hours before Srila Saraswati Thakur left the world. And Saraswati Thakur, this is his last hours in this world. He was showing himself to be in very poor health, and he had, there was a group of his disciples who were all taking turns to stay with him. So, he was never alone. He always had someone attending him, through every hour of the day. And then Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he had chosen the most difficult time to do that service. It was like in the very early hours of the morning, like from 1 until 4 in the morning or something like that. And so on that, at that time, this is like 24 hours before Saraswati Thakur left, then Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he finished his duty and he went to take rest, and he was resting in his room. And not long after he laid down to rest, then somebody came to him, and told him, oh, Prabhupada, they would call Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada. Prabhupada's calling you. You please come. So Srila Sridhar Maharaj went back. And actually, Saraswati Thakur, I'm not exactly sure of the sequence of everything. I don't know if it's something that he did every now and again, or if it was in that particular moment he started this. But he was asking different disciples, and in this last period before he left, he was asking different disciples to sing particular songs. And he was also giving some special instructions also to some of them. And so then he called for Srila Sridhar Maharaj, and he asked him to sing Sri Rupa Manjari Pada. And which is very, very significant, because that song, it's considered to be like the anthem of the Gaudiya Vaishnavas. It's a song which is expressing a very intense service aspiration and affinity for Sri Rupa. Sri Rupa, who is the dearmost of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Gaura Leela, and who has a very special position as an intimate attendant of Sri Sri Radha Krishna in Krishna Leela. So this song is written by Narottam Thakur. It is published. It is fine to read it. We don't sing it. It's a song we would sing if our Gurudev was here and was leading it. Otherwise, we don't really sing it. But you can read it. It's in our Kirtan guide. So it was very, very significant. Srila Saraswati Thakur particularly called for Srila Sridhar Maharaj to come out of his room and ask him to sing that song. This is very significant. And then what made the point even more clear is that, so Saraswati Thakur asked Srila Sridhar Maharaj, and Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he hesitated. And, he was a little shy. His nature was shy. Gurudev would say he was a back-pushing man. So, his nature was shy. And also, Gurudev mentioned he wasn't known for being a good singer. and Gurudev, he added, Guru Maharaj, he was a very good dancer. But he wasn't the best singer. So Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he hesitated. He didn't directly respond to Prabhupada's request. So there was this pause, and then Kunja Babu, Kunja Babu, he was the two most prominent. To really answer this question, it's necessary to know some of the history and the key figures. So Kunja Babu and Ananta Vasudev, these were like the two key, most prominent followers of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. So Kunja Babu, he was his special area was management. He was like the grand manager of the Gaudiya Math. He handled all of the the organizational aspects of things. And the other, Ananta Vasudev, he was like the Siddhanta man. He was the expert in Siddhanta, very, very brilliant. And for that reason, he was actually very good friends with Srila Sridhar Maharaj. Because they were both like the two most brilliant in the Siddhanta department. So Kunja Babu, he had this position as like the right hand of Srila Saraswati Thakur. So he saw like there was this awkward pause taking place. So he intervened and he asked somebody else. Actually, it was Puri Maharaj who he asked. The Vaishnava you mentioned, who at that time, he wasn't a sannyasi, but I can't, was it Pranavananda, I think, maybe Chinmoy people will remember. But he had another name at that time. So Kunja Babu, and probably Kunja Babu was also thinking, oh, well, Sridhar Maharaj, he's not the best singer. So he asked someone else. So he asked Puri Maharaj, who was known for having a sweet kirtan voice. And so Puri Maharaj, he began to sing. And then Prabhupada, Saraswati Thakur, he interrupted him. And he said, I do not want to hear the sweet tune. I want to hear Sridhar Maharaj sing this song. And I can also add here, and this is a testament to the genuine Vaishnavata of Puri Maharaj, that he particularly, later he particularly glorified Srila Sridhar Maharaj and told him, Prabhupada did not want to hear from me. He wanted to hear from you, which is very beautiful and shows, what a genuine Vaishnava heart, non-envious Vaishnava heart he had, that he could say that and have that kind of appreciation for Srila Sridhar Maharaj. So Saraswati Thakur, he emphasized, no, I want to hear this from Sridhar Maharaj. Only Sridhar Maharaj will sing this. And so then, hesitatingly, Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he began to sing that song. And for everybody present there, it was a revelation. And, because they recognized the deep significance of Srila Saraswati Thakur asking Srila Sridhar Maharaj to sing this, they saw it as Saraswati Thakur handing the currents to him, what is referred to as the Rupanuga Dhara, the spiritual currents that is coming from Srila Rupa Goswami. So that was their feeling. They were witnessing something very special, that Saraswati Thakur was giving entrance to Srila Sridhar Maharaj to a higher plane of service, and that he was handing the currents to him. So that's one in this regard, this is probably the most significant event which took place. Before that, in the throughout the course of Srila Sridhar Maharaj's service in the Gaudiya Math, there were other incidents, there were other comments that Srila Saraswati Thakur made in regards to Srila Sridhar Maharaj that were very significant. In particular, there was a poem. If you look in I'm just thinking the books. You don't have the hard copy of the books, but you can find on the internet. Prapana, I'm not sure if you've come across anyone's mentioned Prapana Jivanamritam to you yet. But in the back of that book, there's a collection of some of the more prominent compositions of Srila Sridhar Maharaj. And Srila Sridhar Maharaj's compositions, they were incomparable, in terms of substance and also in terms of, poetry, just from the angle of poetry, very extraordinary. And then there was one poem in particular that Srila Sridhar Maharaj wrote, which is a glorification of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And it's a little curious at first consideration. It's a little curious because you'll think, oh, hang on, Srila Sridhar Maharaj is a disciple of Saraswati Thakur. And this was the first thing that he wrote when he joined the Gaudiya Math as well. So why? The first thing he composes, it's not about his guru, but it's about his guru's guru. So it may seem a little curious, when you first consider it. But Srila Sridhar Maharaj did that with a strategy in mind, with a particular strategy, that he wanted to capture his Gurudev's heart. And he thought, if I go to directly glorify my Gurudev, okay, maybe he'll be somewhat happy, but it won't really touch his heart so deeply. So he thought, but if I glorify, who is dearmost to him, who is most beloved to him, then he will really pay attention. Then he will really be pleased with me. He'll really be happy with me. So that was his strategy. So he wrote this Bhakti Vinod Viraha Dashakam, prayers in separation of Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur. And there's one, the whole composition is extraordinary. It's 10 verses, or beautiful ornamental Sanskrit verses. And they're all extraordinary, but there's one in particular, which is, it is, there isn't a word for it. There isn't an adjective for it. There's one verse, which is utterly extraordinary, utterly brilliant, because it perfectly places, first of all, it's identifying what Mahaprabhu, what was the real deepest reason for Mahaprabhu's descent in this world. And he identifies Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur as someone who was able to distribute that gift, and that gift is the service of Srimati Radharani. And then also in that verse, Srila Sridhar Maharaj is identifying the particular relationship that all of the acharyas in Mahaprabhu's line, what is the contribution that they have made in connection with that gift. Sarup Damodar, Rupa Goswami, Raghunath Das Goswami, Jiva Goswami, and so on. And so, what is the particular service, the particular role that they have played in connection to the distribution of this gift of Radha Dasyam, the service of Srimati Radharani. So when Saraswati Thakur read that verse, he was extremely pleased, extremely satisfied. And his comment on reading that verse was, now I am satisfied that after I leave this world, one man will remain behind who understands what I came to give. That was his comment. So, another very significant expression of appreciation for Srila Sridhar Maharaj coming from Saraswati Thakur. So, these are a few things that came directly from Saraswati Thakur. Then we can also see the significance of Srila Sridhar Maharaj's position after Saraswati Thakur left. There's a lot of history. I'm just skimming through like what to include now and what not to. Okay, but we'll say it like this, without going into all of the details. At a certain point, there was a group of these leading disciples of Saraswati Thakur, who were all great preachers in their own right, and great Vaishnavas in their own right. A group of them, they came to Srila Sridhar Maharaj, who actually went into hiding. They had to search him out. He really, really did not want any position at all. And he was literally in hiding. So at a certain point, a group of these very distinguished followers of Saraswati Thakur, they came to search him out, and they requested him to take a position as an acharya, and they would all follow him and support him and serve him in this new mission that they would form. But Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he really did not want that. And so instead he said, I'm requesting all of you to take that role yourselves. You are all qualified. You have that capacity. You take that duty yourself. So that's quite significant. It's one thing to be a king, but it's another thing to be a king maker. Someone who can make a king. That was Srila Sridhar Maharaj's position. He empowered many of them to take that role. He also gave sannyas to many of them, who had not received sannyas in the time of Saraswati Thakur. They came to Srila Sridhar Maharaj, many of them, and they took even some who were senior to him, like Bhakti Saranga Goswami Maharaj. They were senior to Srila Sridhar Maharaj in the mission in terms of their preaching and their time in the mission and their influence, etc. So like Goswami Maharaj, Bhakti Saranga Goswami Maharaj, he was one of those persons. He took sannyas. He came to Srila Sridhar Maharaj for sannyas. Swami Maharaj Prabhupada, and many took sannyas from him, and there were a number of others who wanted to, but they weren't able to. Srila Swami Maharaj Prabhupada, the founder of ISKCON, he was one of those. He wanted to take sannyas from Srila Sridhar Maharaj. But Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he did not want, that's another story, and you may have already heard it, but he didn't want to give him sannyas at that time for various reasons. And so Srila Sridhar Maharaj gave him his name, but he sent him to Keshav Maharaj. That's another great follower of Saraswati Thakur we didn't mention yet, Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Maharaj. And there were others too, who wanted to take, but for various reasons they weren't able to. Bhakti Daita Madhav Marsh, he was another one. Gurudev also mentioned there were some who they were too shy to ask him, because he was held in such high regard that just to approach him, that was difficult for some. This was the kind of position that Srila Sridhar Maharaj had amongst the glorious followers of Saraswati Thakur. They universally respected him. They because they felt, especially after that final incident when they saw Saraswati Thakur indicating Srila Sridhar Maharaj as the, his successor in this indirect way, they felt almost universally, they felt that the current is moving through him. And if we want to be successful, we need to have the grace of Srila Sridhar Maharaj. That was their feeling. There was one comment, there's one famous comment of Bhakti Saranga Goswami Maharaj. There was this one gathering that would take place after Gaur Purnima at our mat in Navadvip, Vishwa Vaishnava Raja Sabha. And many of the followers, many of these prominent followers, they would gather to meet with Srila Sridhar Maharaj and one another. And it was Goswami Maharaj. He made this wonderful comment on one occasion, and one of the meetings one year. He used this word simhavalokan, which means the glance of a lion, referring to how a lion, when it's striding on the plain, a lion is very powerful, bold, but every now and again, and moving forward, but every now and again, the lion will, as it's striding along so powerfully and confidently, every now and again it will pause and glance behind to see, oh, what is the terrain I have crossed? Am I going in the right direction? Am I on track? So Goswami Maharaj, he said, similarly, we are all these powerful preachers, and they were, and they had like, Srila Sridhar Maharaj, his nature was very reserved, and he was, he had a very small mission with a small handful of followers. In his later years, he was not in preaching mode at all. But these godbrothers of him, they had big flourishing missions all over India. So his comment, Goswami Maharaj, he said, we are like these lions, moving forward with our preaching. But every now and again, we're looking to you, Sridhar Maharaj, to see, how do you feel about what we're doing? Are you happy with us? Are you pleased with us? And then if we have your blessings, then we are proceeding. So that was the relationship Srila Sridhar Maharaj had with his godbrothers. And throughout the year, many of them, they would come to consult with him, to seek his friendship, his advice. And a number of them, they would stay for some period of time, a few weeks or a few months, few days. So, and even those who were, because, there was so much, there's always politics. And so, for various political reasons, there were some who were posing themselves as non-friendly with him. Even those persons, they still would come to hear from Srila Sridhar Maharaj sometimes, because they recognized his quality. So, this is one point that I'm making here. To look at his position in relationship to Saraswati Thakur and in relationship to the other disciples of Saraswati. This is one way we can understand what is the special position of Srila Bhakti Raksha Sridhar Deva Goswami Maharaj. And then another point is that if we will look at, okay, yes, as you've said, they're all all of these followers, they're giving the same thing, right? They're giving Mahaprabhu's teachings, in the line of Srila Rupa Goswami and Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. In a broad sense, they're all giving that. However, if we zoom in a little more, then we will find that there are some fine differences, in terms of the depth of the Siddhanta, the depth of explanation. There's also some differences in mood and style, some differences on what are the points of emphasis. If you look in more closely, then you will find some differences there. So what we find is that what the type of substance that Srila Sridhar Maharaj gave, nobody else gave that. He gave an explanation of the Gayatri Mantram, which was not given before. It is said to have been indicated somewhere in the writings of Jiva Goswami, but otherwise it was not given. And so basically Srila Sridhar Maharaj gave an explanation which had not been given before, which was not known before, of the great famous Gayatri Mantram of Vedic India, which everyone thinks is about the sun. Srila Sridhar Maharaj gave a very profound explanation of that. He also gave a very fine explanation of the Chatur Shloki of Bhagavad Gita, which had not been given before. And these are like some of the more like prominent contributions we're mentioning. And then he, those are things which were unique, which had not been given before. And then also he gave explanation of so many verses. He gave explanation of the Shikshashtakam, which is so wonderful, so extraordinary. And that, that type of presentation you won't find anywhere. He gave so many extraordinary Sanskrit compositions. I mentioned one of them. And, these, for us to appreciate these things is one thing, but these are things that his godbrothers, who were also highly qualified, they studied them. They appreciated them, we mentioned the Bhakti Vinod Rahadashakam. There were other poems that he wrote. He gave the Prema Dhamma Deva Stotram, which is an extraordinary composition, 70 Sanskrit verses, which are, wonderfully describing the entire, summarizing the entire life and pastimes and teachings of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And these are just a few. He gave wonderful composition, song about Saraswati Thakur, which is sung in Gaudiya Mats, today. They're singing Srila Sridhar Maharaj's song and other songs and other Gaudiya Mats. So yes, if we look at the quality of the spiritual wealth coming from Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj, then we find it is unprecedented, it is unparalleled, it is extraordinary, and we feel very, very fortunate, very blessed to have some connection to this line, and so Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he very, very clearly and emphatically handed everything over to Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj. Very, very, very clearly. He said, if you won't take this, because our Gurudev, he didn't want that position. But Srila Sridhar Maharaj told him at some point, if you don't take this charge, I'll just close the temple. Nobody else can take this. So Srila Sridhar Maharaj very clearly handed everything to Srila Govinda Maharaj, who also has his own unique spiritual wealth, which we can discuss at another time. So in this way, we see that the line, the current of Mahaprabhu and Rupa Goswami, they are in the most concentrated way. They are flowing through this line in the followers of Srila Sridhar Maharaj and Srila Govinda Maharaj. And as I mentioned before, it's not that the other followers, the other bona fide followers of the other followers of Saraswati Thakur, it's not that they don't have anything. No, not at all. They all have some wonderful substance and genuine, authentic connection to the current. But what is flowing through Srila Sridhar Maharaj, that is we find there the most intense, the greatest intensity of the current is flowing there. And so we feel fortunate to take shelter there. It is not that if you go to these other groups, it is not that you won't get anything there. No, of course you will. But here there is plus plus something else. And then finally I can say, it's important to make this kind of comparison, but then also simply to look at one's heart and to feel where do I try to understand, where do I feel that where do I resonate, where do I feel the mood here resonates with me. That is another question that we can ask ourselves. Yeah, I mean, there's many other, this is a big discussion. It's not a discussion for just 1 hour in a Zoom meeting, but this is my basic answer, and I'm happy to discuss more at another time. Is that helpful?
Yes, yeah, thank you. Yeah, because I think it's important to know, for at least for me, beginning to know, kind of get this straight in in my own head. And of course I've been introduced to this line, and a lot of folks I speak with, they're surrendered, of course, to the line and are very passionate about, obviously very passionate about their guru. So I don't want to, I want to make sure I'm not making an emotional decision or a decision based off of, no, this person says this is the best, or this person says that's the best, to actually make like an informed decision from my heart and also my head.
Mm-hmm. So, wonderful. That sounds like a very sensible approach. Maybe would anyone else like to add something? Maybe Chinmoy Prabhu, do you like to add anything on this topic?
Well, I know our gurus have given the example of when you eat something, you don't need anybody to tell you you are satisfied. Automatically, you'll be satisfied. And I think this is true with many of us who've come to Gurudev and Guru Maharaj, that we are satisfied. Automatically, we come to this line, and it's something that comes from the heart. So there's no question for us, anyways, to go anywhere else. At least for me, I'm satisfied.
Chinmoy Prabhu, we had the privilege of meeting Srila Bhakti Sundar Govindadev Goswami Maharaj in person, and I think any sincere seeker, if they met him, that's exactly what they would say. There wouldn't be any consideration. You just know, oh, my heart is being touched in this extraordinary way. I don't need to know anything else. I mean, I'm very lucky because I was just born into this, my mother just gave me to Gurudev when I was 6 years old, And, you know, and there's never been any question. I've always felt the most profound appreciation for, you know, having this connection. But for those who didn't have that privilege, then it is natural to ask such questions, natural and sensible.
Yeah, that's where I am. Because it's like every time I speak with people, they say, "Oh yeah, Guru Dev, and he's so amazing." And then I'm thinking like, "Oh, what about me? Like, what? I can watch YouTube videos all day." But so this is kind of where I am.
Yeah, we have a lot of simple-hearted devotees who that will just be their answers. Gurudev.
Yeah.
Gurudev is so amazing. I love Gurudev so much. The end.
Yeah, and then I'm thinking like, okay, well, in 2002 I was in college, so why didn't I go seek him out then? I don't know.
You're like, well, that's really nice. I'm really happy for you, but it doesn't help me.
Yeah.
Who maybe Govinda Nandini, do you want to add anything to this discussion?
Oh, I just remembered. Today is the appearance day of Srila Shankaracharya, right?
Is it today?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I was reading, and there is one part that he found his guru when he sat under a tree and he saw some frogs and the snake together. And then he thought there is something strange here because the snake is not trying to eat the frogs. So then he went to research, and then he found his guru. And this somehow reminded me when I joined the mission, I was what most intrigued is
Yes.
this word intrigued me was how though these so many different people are united together. What is this strength that is uniting so such different personalities? And later, after I took initiation and after I had joined the mission, I realized it was the affection of Srila Gurudev, Srila Govinda Maharaj, and the liberality of Srila Guru Maharaj. I find this is incredible. So I also, when I joined, I didn't have many options, and I was just attached to that family life. Different people united under one glue, invisible glue.
Jai.
That's it. That's what I remembered.
Yeah, I mean, that was Gurudev's potency. He didn't even need to say anything, but it was his presence was so powerful, and his unconditional love. It literally emanated from him. It was, you know, I like that word glue. It was like a glue that bound us all together and kept us at his, you know, this loving glue that kept us at his lotus feet. And, you know, it's for someone who hasn't directly experienced that, it is difficult to convey that, you know, but, you know, that's what it was like. Suvasini, Didi, do you want to add anything? You're on mute. Yeah.
No, Didi, that was so beautiful. It's as you said, that is the only thing which all kept us bound by, you know, Gurudev's affection. Yeah. Yeah, that is the only thing, I think. Yeah.
But Braja Mohini, Didi, do you want to add something, share something here?
Dandavat, Visakha Didi. It's difficult to hear. And nice to hear what Govinda Nandini had to say. I was just trying to remember when I was searching for a guru, but I think a lot of times it was, yeah, we have to follow that internal necessity, you know, and meeting his devotees, meeting his servitors. That was helpful, for sure. But besides that, I don't have anything else to add. It's nice to be here today, to have your association, everyone's association. Thank you.
Thank you, Didi. That's actually a nice point too. You mentioned the followers of Srila Govinda Maharaj is something that attracted you, because you can, for me, I can usually tell by looking at someone, looking at a devotee, the way they speak, their mood, are they a member of our family, or are they a member of another family? You can usually tell. There's one famous expression in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhavendra Purira Sambandha Dara Jani. Mahaprabhu meets with the disciple of Ishwar Puri. Disciple of Madhavendra Puri. He's a god brother of Ishwar Puri. So Mahaprabhu meets with the disciple of Madhavendra Puri, and that who's referred to as the Sanudian Brahmin. And that Sanudian Brahmin, he's able to recognize in Mahaprabhu a particular mood of divine love. And so he sees Mahaprabhu chanting and dancing in ecstasy. And then he makes that comment, I know you must have a relationship with Madhavendra Puri, because he's able to recognize this particular mood. So that's another thing, if you meet with the members of different groups, then you can identify some mood, and you can see what resonates with your heart the most, what touches you the most. I liked what Brajamaniji also said, that internal necessity, you'll feel that within your heart. And ultimately your own sukriti, your own, degree of spiritual fortune, that will bring you to your path.
I think also, Visakha Didi, we need to be attentive to what's coming in our front as well. So if, Guru Maharaj and Gurudev's teachings and devotees are coming in our front, then we really have to go anywhere else. But obviously, there's always that need to be sure, for sure, but to be attentive to that reciprocation from his side. If our heart is sincere to connect with Krishna, with the Lord, he's going to send that, who we need for who he wants us to connect with. And so to be attentive to that, to his reciprocation, So
Yeah.
that's all.
Sometimes we're looking for something and we don't realize it's right in front of us. Okay, well, anyone else want to share anything? Maybe Jayadev has some thoughts on this. Okay, he's gone quiet.
Hello?
Hello.
Nandavat, sorry, I'm driving and I'm learning how to use this tap to speak button. I've never done that before. Wow. I know, all very wonderful. Maybe just a couple of details I felt like that were fun to throw in about Srila Swami Maharaj, which was that, I don't know if this was mentioned, but that Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Maharaj was a sannyas disciple of Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Dev, which means he was indirectly getting sannyas by getting it through Bhakti Pragyan. He's like, you're getting sannyas from me through my sannyas disciple. So, and of course, as you know, and I thought just for the fun for Varun, so he could understand that the reason, well, one of the reasons that Srila Sridhar Maharaj didn't give him sannyas, and the one that he cited, was that I know your wife too well. And I don't want to basically make her angry or cross her. You know, he didn't want to disrespect that family relationship he had with Srila Swami Maharaj's wife by giving him sannyas. So then he indirectly gave through his sannyas disciple, and with Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Maharaj being one of the sannyas generals, that means that Srila Sridhar Maharaj pretty much gave sannyas to most of the line. Like it's almost all coming through Srila Sridhar Maharaj, including any disciple of Srila Swami Maharaj, any disciple of Srila Prabhupada, all of ISKCON, all of the sannyas is coming through him. He is the sannyas connection, which is kind of cool. Anyways, just adding that. Thank you. Beautiful talks.
Nice. Thank you. Thank you, Jayadev. Okay. Well, anyone else have another topic or question or?
I have a short question.
Yes.
By the departure of Srila Sarasvati Thakur, Kunja Babu, so he was not Bhaktivilas Tita Maharaj yet, right?
That's right. Yeah, he took. I'm actually not sure. Maybe someone else here knows. I'm not sure who he took sannyas from. Not from Srila Sridhar Maharaj. Because the division was after Saraswati Thakur left. The division was between Kunja Babu and his followers and Ananta Vasudeva and his followers. And at that time, Srila Sridhar Maharaj was supporting Ananta Vasudeva. So definitely Kunja Babu wouldn't have gone to Srila Sridhar Maharaj for sannyas. I'm not sure who he took from. Yeah. Okay. Is that Inja? Is that our Inja in Ireland? Who's here? I'm not sure if that's.
Yeah.
Oh,
Hello,
wow.
Dandavat.
Dandavat, so good to have you with us.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
How are you and Ananda?
We're very good. Everything is good with us. We're
Good.
happy, healthy.
Oh, good. Wonderful. Well, it's
Yeah.
really, really great to hear you.
You too. I've been following on YouTube, just watching the
yeah.
recordings.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, today worked out and I could join. So it's nice to see you in real time as well.
Okay, well, it's nice to have you with us in real time.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, should we stop there? Anything else? Should we end?
Thank you once again, Didi, for everything.
Thank you, Prabhu, for this opportunity. Very grateful to be here with all of you.
Jai Visakha Devi Dasi ki. Jai.
Jai.
Jai Srila Bhakti Sundar Dev Goswami Maharaj ki Jai. All the assembled devotees and sincere seekers ki Jai. Jai Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki Jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande.
Hari Bol.
Hari Bol.